You ever wonder why architects never kind of retire? They kind of wither away? It's because no one has any money, right? So really, if you think about it, what needs to happen is that the senior generation needs to capture the information and provide it to the younger generation so they can harness it and adapt. Because quite frankly, the only way the older generation can be bought out is by the business, the cash flow of the business. And so those skills that we're going to talk about need to be passed on to that next generation. Okay, so here are our learning objectives. We're going to identify practice areas where erosion of profitability is most prevalent, discuss strategies to improve profitability, formulate strategies to maximize cash flow, and develop strategies for procuring more work. Okay. When I think of architects, okay, and I think of the industry, and I've been doing this for well over 20 years at this point, you know, I say to myself that this would be a great business if it weren't for four things. If you didn't have to get the work, produce the work, worry about getting built, and get paid. It'd be awesome, right? But you know what? Those four things are critical. You have to be able to do those, and you have to do them well. The challenge is that when you went to school, they never taught you how to run a business. They never gave you any training in terms of sales, marketing, running a business. They taught you how to detail a building and detail a staircase. And so when I think about the business of architecture, and I think of architects, I think of them as the accidental entrepreneur, okay? Because it's kind of like one day you're sitting at your desk, someone taps you on the shoulder and says, congratulations, you're a principal. Now look at work. Very, very difficult. But I'd like you to think about this concept, okay? The question is, are you an architect that happens to be an entrepreneur? Or are you an entrepreneur that happens to have a specialty in architecture? Because when we go through this afternoon, your perspective is going to be different if you're an entrepreneur that happens to have a specialty in architecture. Okay? We've been taught, I'm assuming everyone in this room has been taught, that all projects are made up of three things: time, quality, and money. It's like a three-legged stool. Okay? All three legs need to be firmly in place in order for there to be stability within the firm. The terrain of a given project has to be changed. You have to adjust the legs of the stool in order for there always to be stability. But what I'll tell you, even the most sophisticated firms have challenges with this. I have a friend, a client of mine, who is a principal at a 120-person AE firm in New York City. They were working on a $28 million building for a university in Brooklyn. In fact, it was the first LEED certified project in Brooklyn. And what happened was he only bid $2.1 million. All right? And the reason why he did it was because he felt that he was competing against other named insureds. Now let me take a step back. This was a very complicated project. It was the kind of project where the curtain wall consultant insisted that a full-scale mock-up of a two-story scale mock-up of the building be made somewhere out in Pennsylvania so they could test the various elements against the curtain wall against the elements. And it was a good thing, and the owner didn't want to pay for it. It was a good thing because there were actually problems with leakage. And as everyone knows, water can create all kinds of issues. Now, the interesting thing about this project, the client did get this project, he felt that when they were going through the design phase, he felt that they were losing some money. When he actually found out how much money they were losing, they were actually down $750,000 on this project. That was their loss. And it wasn't even construction at this point. Now I can assure you, $750,000 was sinking this firm and this client, and this friend knew it. So what he did was he went back with all kinds of charts and graphs to the owner to try to justify coming up with additional fee. But this was the real challenge. Guess what his design process was? To exhaust all possibilities before moving forward. He was more interested in the perfect project as opposed to managing the three legs of the stool. Now, this client, he went back to the owner, he showed all kinds of charts and graphs in terms of what the perfect fee would be, and fortunately the project went from $28 million to $45 million. So after 2 weeks, the trustees came back and said, you want something? We can't come up with $750, but we'll come up with $550,000. And the only reason why they did was because of the relationship. The relationship. Why do I bring up this? I bring up this point because I know at some point in time this has happened to everyone in this room. Hopefully with the same or similar examples or outcome. The reality is it's very painful. You have to be able to manage the three legs of the stool. Now, I am not the kind of person that says I'm ruthless about budgets. But let me tell you a concept that one of our clients has kind of developed over the years. He's an MEP. He developed a concept called the rule of sevens. You're gonna love this, okay? He has an employee, or had an employee in his office for 15 years, and he had a calculator, an old-fashioned calculator. And the number 7 never worked on the calculator, the guy didn't know it. And so when he was adding, subtracting, and doing all these calculations, somehow it came up within the right range. In other words, you need to develop a sense of, what was the word he used? Not sensibility, but it has to be a sense of, sensitivity. That was the word he used. And you have to develop a sense of sensitivity when you're dealing with the 3 legs of the stool. Okay? It's very important. I think the rule of sevens is hilarious. But anyway, let's talk about the third leg, money. You have to be paid. It's an absolute. There is no leeway. You absolutely must be paid. I will tell you that most architects find it beneath them to talk about money. They think it's unprofessional, especially time payment. But the reality is, you have to be paid. Cash flow is the lifeblood of your firm. We're going to talk about this later.